It's Friday, July 1st, and this is now on HNN.
The defueling plan is alarmingly devoid of detail.
The Navy investigation finds cascading preventable failures caused the water crisis that sickened thousands.
So they may have to be the 24/7 person who's there.
ALS is a rare disease, but the challenges that patients and families encounter are all too familiar.
We are excited to welcome back tourism from Japan.
ANA resumes super jumbo jet flights from Japan to Honolulu.
Pretty full.
An update on that holiday travel crunch that's coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon and happy Aloha Friday, everyone. Thank you for watching This Is Now. You got Ashley and Jonathan here. Now, the U.S. Navy has released the results of its investigation into 2 fuel spills from its Red Hill underground storage facility last year, which led to a major water crisis for military families and jeopardized one of Oahu's major water sources.
Yeah, we just got new reaction into our newsroom regarding this from the BWS. Let's get right to Mahealani Richardson live with more on that.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan. Ash. You know, it was really a stunning news conference with Ernie Lau, the chief manager of the Board of Water Supply. And we had his reaction. He read that report last night. It was a very thick report, both an investigative report and a supplemental report from the Navy, both on the investigation of what happened during those spills in May and November of last year. And here was his initial reaction upon reading those details.
The Navy's proposed defueling plan is equally disappointing. Despite taking several months to prepare, the defueling plan is alarmingly devoid of detail. Important information concerning the scope of the defueling work, the budget for accomplishing defueling, and the defueling schedule are simply missing. Equally troubling, the Navy identifies on December 31st, 2024 as the earliest possible date by which it can defuel the Red Hill facility safely. This is unacceptable.
Now, what Ernie Lau is talking about being unacceptable is the defueling plan that the Navy also released. Now, the Navy said at best case scenario, it would be 2.5 years till the end of 2024 that they could defuel the facility as ordered by the Pentagon. Now, Ernie Lau, again, as you just heard, he said that is unacceptable. You know, this World War II era facility was built in 3 years. And he said, given the Navy's capacity and $1 billion that would be allocated by Congress, he said that was unacceptable. Now, we also asked him, what was the one detail that really stood out to you, and what was your reaction as you read it? And you know, Mr. Lau has been very emotional throughout this whole time because of his passion for Hawaii's water, and he had to take a moment and he stopped to contain his emotions, and he said the one detail that stood out for him was that there is a lava tube that basically cross-sects the water tunnel in the Red Hill shaft, and it is believed that that is the pathway, that could have been the pathway where that fuel, after the fuel leaks, why it went so quickly, why it spread so quickly out into the water table and into the Navy's aquifer. And again, he just said, my God. It was really a stunning moment during that news conference. Ash and Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Mahealani. We will look forward to more reports from you coming up on later editions of HNN. All right, back here in the HNN Digital Center Live. You know, airports are seeing a record number of travelers for this 4th of July weekend.
That's right, pre-pandemic size crowds. And so far today across the country, there have been more than 5,100 delays and about 500 cancellations. Our Casey Lund is at the airport with more on the travel crunch and details on a returning route to Japan.
Aloha from the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, where earlier this morning we saw some pretty big crowds, but really nothing too bad here in the Inner Island Terminal, though the DOT is saying that between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., those peak travel times, it might be wise to arrive even 3 hours before your flight. We know about 48 million Americans are hitting the skies this holiday weekend, and they're paying pretty steep prices for airfare too. The national average is around $440. That is up 45% compared to 2019. This morning here at H&L, we were able to talk to local families who are getting out of town for all kinds of reasons.
Well, we were fortunate that we were able to grab that $57 round trip tickets.
Ooh. That's not necessarily the case elsewhere when you look. I see you were talking off camera. You said you were trying to go to Arizona earlier for the holidays. What were the prices like for that?
2 weeks ago, it was like $4,200 round trip for one person. Last night, it was $1,600 round trip for one person to Arizona.
It's been pretty full. It's like, yeah, I bought like the last like 5 seats.
What are you guys going to do when you're in Maui? What are you going to do with your aunt?
Hang out with our aunt, maybe we're going to go to the beach, the pool, and just have fun.
Right on.
I'm going to go cliff jumping.
Cliff jumping? Where are you going cliff jumping?
Beach house. Beach house, Black Rock probably.
How long are you guys in Hawaii?
We're for 6 days.
One other note from the Hawaii DOT that parking could be an issue. This might be a week that you want to make sure that you have somebody drop you off or take a ride share or a taxi to the airport. Could save you a headache because they do expect a lot of the parking structures to really be pretty busy this weekend. One other note about international travel, a milestone today as the flying Honu from the ANA, All Nippon Airlines, returned to H&L.
After 2 long years of dealing with the COVID pandemic, we are excited to welcome back tourism from Japan. We know that they are excited to be back as well. The Daniel K. Inouye International Airport was the 9th airport in the United States to be able to accommodate the Airbus A380. These Honu airplanes are so special that we made a $30 million investment in our airport to gate C4 and C9 to service them.
A reminder to check in online early for your flight so you can avoid that mess, and best to try and get everything you can into a carry-on so you can avoid checking a bag. It'll get you through security quite a bit faster. Reporting at the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, I'm Casey Lund. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Now to part 2 of our series on Hawaii families dealing with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. Sammy Salina reports on the challenges they face in getting care.
Yesterday, we introduced you to 2 women whose loved ones passed away from ALS. But anyone who has to provide full-time care for their loved ones run into similar problems regardless of their diagnosis.
Welcome to a Medicare Moment with Martha. I'm your host, Martha Clopin.
There's a reason why she has the nickname.
People call me Medicare Martha.
Why she has the radio show.
What is covered for beneficiaries?
Because people have questions.
And he was calling about his brother-in-law.
Lots of them.
This week, I'm going to take a little bit of a deep dive into Medicare and what we know as Lou Gehrig's disease.
Martha has decades of insurance experience and owns a company that helps people navigate the often baffling and frustrating healthcare system. Today's episode is about ALS, and she's talking about a recent rule change that will help individuals get support earlier.
If you were diagnosed with ALS, you now do not have to wait 24 months. You don't have to wait 5 months. You will be allowed to get your disability right away, and your Medicare coverage can start right away as well.
There are around 100 patients living with ALS in the state. Hawaii Pacific Health neurologist Brandon Hirota actively treats 10 of them.
So this is a neurodegenerative disorder, and that means that a certain group of cells within the nervous system, including the brain, the spinal cord, these group of cells are dying off.
Hirota says most of the patients he encounters opt to stay at home and have family members care for them for the rest of their lives, which is usually 3 to 5 years after diagnosis. But there are people who live much longer.
There's a huge spectrum of life expectancy with these patients. I've had patients that from diagnosis, they only lived a year. And on the other side of the spectrum, I have patients exactly who are about 15 years out with still mild minimal symptoms. And why is that? Nobody really quite knows yet, unfortunately.
Welcome back to a Medicare Moment with Martha.
Martha says that while ALS is relatively rare, affecting about 5 in a group of 100,000, the 24/7 care people need is similar to other chronic diseases.
Health insurance is going to generally take care of what's specifically medically necessary. So they may have to be the 24/7 person who's there to bring a glass of water, to take their medication, to help them toilet.
Essentially, many people are on their own for the daily needs of a loved one because of how insurance works. In fact, 1 in 5 adults in Hawaii identify themselves as caregivers. That's 20% of the adult population. Half say they provided care for a loved one for at least 2 years. About a third provide care for at least 20 hours a week. AARP says that adds up to 157,000 residents, providing altogether 131 million hours of care each year. If you paid them for that work, it would be valued at more than $2 billion.
It's really important that we figure out a way to fill those gaps.
Martha says the numbers underscore just how overburdened caregivers are, a situation likely to grow even more acute as Hawaii's population continues to grow.
There's a lot of other critical illnesses that people can relate to because it will follow the same pattern as what you need to do.
Throughout the years, she has seen countless diagnoses change lives. She has seen families go bankrupt, sometimes quitting their jobs to take care of loved ones.
A lot of things are not automatic.
For someone who answers questions about so many different illnesses, she says it's amazing to hear so many similar problems.
So that's the same reason why I think this should be important to anyone who's listening. You have to understand that these conditions can come about at any time unexpectedly, and you won't know where to go.
She says that's why we should care about what happens to a relatively small ALS facility.
Once again, I want to thank you for listening to a Medicare Moment with Martha.
Because that means we care about everyone looking after loved ones who couldn't make it on their own.
I wish you peace in your heart, peace in your mind, and peace in your life.
From affordable housing to rail to a new police chief, the list of local topics that matter is long. Today on Sunrise, we spoke with Mayor Rick Blangiardi and Council Chair Tommy Waters about their vision for the city.
Crime definitely on the rise, and we've seen a lot of challenges. You know,
Sure.
We have a new police chief now, and we've seen the overtime cost, right? So is this something that we've also remedied so we're not wasting taxpayer money for this fiscal year?
I have a lot of confidence in this and what's going to happen on a going forward basis. It's unfortunate about the past, but we're looking forward, and I think we can bring, I think, from good management practices, overtime under control. But the biggest thing is to protect our community, especially our kapuna. The one thing we know for certain, across all 9 council districts, all over this island, people want to feel safe. They want to feel family safe. And so we're making that a very big priority. When you have a $3.22 billion operating budget, there's a lot of priorities within that, quite honestly, but safety is of the utmost importance.
And hiring also an issue at HPD, right? I think some 300 vacancies there.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. How are we going to address that?
Actually, 329 uniform police officers
Okay.
short. You know, I have confidence that the new chief is going to make a dent in that. One of the things that he said, he quoted Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I was so impressed by that. When he says incremental change and it takes time, right? It takes time to fill these positions, and we both have confidence that the chief will get this done.
Yeah, okay. So it's going to take a while to flesh all of this stuff out. So we're just going to mention some of the priorities that we think are out there and how those are going to be addressed. So affordable housing and homelessness, I guess that goes hand in hand. And it's not just about throwing money at it, but it's transitioning people into those homes. I mean, how do we go about doing this, and how is that money going to be used?
You want to take a shot, Tom?
Sure. The budget has approximately $61 million to address affordable housing and homelessness. You know, there's a lot of folks suffering from mental illness out there and substance abuse. We put $5 million for bed space for these folks to get the help that they need. Oftentimes, folks suffering from mental illness don't really know that they're suffering from mental illness. The mayor started this CORE program where we utilize ambulances to get out in the community to help these folks, but we need to get them into shelters and bed space with treatment. To me, that's the key. You got to get mental health and substance abuse treatment. And we have really good nonprofits who are doing that. A lot of this money is given to nonprofits who are providing the services that we need, because the government can't do everything. We rely on these nonprofits to provide key services. But one of the things that I'd like to work with you, Mayor, on is purchasing land, right? Affordable housing, the number one impediment to that is the cost of the land. But if the city could provide that to the developer, and the developer come in, we just give them guidelines. For example, build at 30% AMI or below. There's a big need for that. About 22% of the housing shortage is at 30% AMI or below. And these are folks who are on the verge of getting homeless, right? That means you're making about $20,000 a year. By the way, I don't know how anybody survives on $20,000 a year. But those are the areas that we want to focus on, 50% AMI or below.
Mayor, I want to ask you about rail just to get an update, because
Sure.
we know that you've been working on trying to work within that $10 billion budget and maybe shorten it to Kaka'ako, at least in the short term. Have we been able to move forward in getting more money from the feds? And also, what's going to happen exactly to that corridor from Kaka'ako to Ala Moana if it doesn't go forward?
I'll be happy to talk about that. Well, first of all, the federal government was in the deal for $1.55 billion, and they committed $800 million of that, but we've not received any money since 2017. So there's been $744 million outstanding as our construction partner, and the city has had to borrow money to continue construction to the tune of hundreds of millions in financing costs. So this whole strategy really fundamentally was tied to how much money do we have that we know we have between now and 2030, and the funding sources we have, provided we could get the FTA back at the table as a construction partner without any financial penalty and get them to release that money. When you add all that up, it comes out to a little bit more than $10 billion, I'm sorry. And so we took a look and said, where are we now with the project? Because 75% of the guideway has been finished. What can we build based on financing costs of construction? Construction costs at $9.1 billion will take us pretty much to South Street Civic Center, which is where we're going to stop initially. And then the rest of that hangs in the balance in financing costs. We feel really confident we could deliver that. That's the recovery plan we recently submitted. It was due on June 30th yesterday. We submitted it earlier in the month. We're hoping that the course of the month of July we'll get the approval of that plan. Meanwhile, all systems are go. Once we do that, okay, I think we'll start to talk about phase 2. Nobody's given up on Ala Moana, or for that matter, going further into Kapolei. I think we could probably go 4 stops back in Kapolei. If you go out there and see where it sort of starts and ends right now, it's not an ideal location. It's not even reflective of the population out there. There will be a phase 2 to this project. What we had to do was take away, if you will, all the unknowns, talk about what it was we could do, what we could afford to do, make it practical, and then have the FTA agree that we could change the terminus without any penalty, which is unprecedented, with their cooperation and collaboration, and probably just bring some sanity to the project. And hopefully that sanity will start to manifest itself if by the latter part of this calendar year, that we can actually start operating from Kapolei to Aloha Stadium.
As the mayor speaking this morning on Sunrise, you can watch that complete interview on your H&N digital platforms. All right, so simply put, traveling and flying can be a nightmare.
Yep.
So we got some hacks here. We found these viral tips online to help you smooth your potential bumpy ride. So let's start with that dreaded security line. At the security, listen to this. You should always choose left. So I'll explain. People prefer to go towards their dominant hand. So more people are right-handed, so less people will be choosing a left-sided option. So if there's a fork in the security line or there's several lines to choose from, always choose the left side.
I go left in public bathrooms too for that very same reason.
Genius.
And did you know frozen liquids are allowed through security? So this is only really practical if you're going on a long enough flight. For it to defrost though, the liquids have to be frozen solid when you're going through TSA. They can't be half melted.
Yeah, and once past the gate, you can buy one of those airport lounge passes. You don't have to be a member to those airline lounges year-round. You can buy a one-day trip for like $30 to $75. Pretty pricey, but it's worth it, especially on busy days like this.
Yeah, and if you don't like turbulence, you feel less bumps over the wings. So sit there. Turbulence is actually most felt in the back of the plane, and the air in the cabin is fresher and cooler up front, warmer towards the back.
All right, so I got one more really cool hack for us. So let me demonstrate right now. So you know you're on the flight and you want to watch the in-flight entertainment on your phone, but where do you set it if there's not one of those handy clips there, you know, like built into the seat?
Right.
You hold it and your hand falls asleep, or you fall asleep and drop your phone. So grab the little baggie that they put in the seat pocket.
The barf bag?
The barf bag,
Okay.
yes. I wasn't going to say it, you did. So grab it, or any piece of paper. Grab your phone. It only works if you have a case. So uncase your phone. Put the paper.
The barf bag.
Yep. I'm being a little more PG. If you put that in the phone case, in between the phone, you snap it back together, Ashley, and then you hang it on the tray and close the tray and latch it, and then it's hanging there on the back of your seat.
Very cool, John.
Right? I'm proud of that one. I didn't come up with it, but I watched YouTube to figure it out. All right, guys. So I hope you are having a smooth holiday trip, travel, if you are out there and about. But check out this live picture we have. Wow, that's atop the Statue of Liberty right there in New York City. Can you get more American than that on this holiday weekend? Let's see how that barbecue forecast is shaping up.
So pretty much 7 days, pretty much the same. Easterly winds, 15 to 25 miles per hour, breezy conditions. The only difference here is in between halfway through Saturday and halfway through Monday. This section here, that's where things get a little bit different. That's because we've got rain. Upper level trough is going to bring some and throw some moisture into the trade wind flow. So some of those windward and micro showers will drift over to the leeward side at times. Other than that, it's pretty much nice weather all week long.
Check out these incredible photos of Mother Nature doing her thing, you guys. So the Big Picture Natural World Photography Competition annually showcases stunning works from wildlife and environmental photographers from all over the world. Now, more than 7,000 images from 65 different countries were whittled down to a handful of finalists across multiple categories, including landscapes, aquatic life, wing life, and more. Now, the photos were originally published in Biographic. It's an independent magazine about nature and conservation. The keen-eyed competitors captured some mind-boggling moments, from hidden worlds of wonder to fearsome predatory face-offs. Now, in the end, there was an entry from an American photographer. I wonder if we have it.
Right here.
This is the one. So he caught the chaotic mating dance of cactus bees and took home the competition's grand prize.
Those photos were incredible.
Yeah.
I like the crocodile or
love
alligator one as well. That looked really cool. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now. Ashley's back first at 4 on KHNL to get you all the updates from throughout the day. Obviously, still a lot developing there with Red Hill and the tainted water crisis.